Welcome to Pints, Plates and Passports, and welcome to Knighton. This is a town that refused to be filmed in one go. Now normally, our episodes follow a nice, tidy structure. Intro, pubs, attractions and shops, towns, more pubs, outro, job done. But Knighton had other ideas. Knighton looked at our usual format and said, "No chance, mate, you'll have to work for this one." And so, this episode, well, it's going to be a little bit different. This one took 3 separate visits. And not because we wanted to be thorough, but because Knighton decided to play hard to get. Some pubs here only open at weekends. We didn't know that initially, so we came back at the weekend. Some pubs were still closed, even at the weekend. Some landlords were out, some landladies were missing, and one pub seemed to open only when we weren't there. But here's the thing, Knighton didn't leave us stranded, far from it. This little town is packed with independent shops, local characters, unexpected attractions, and more stories than we could ever have planned for. In fact, the independent shops, the attractions, and the people here ended up filling the gaps left by the pubs, and they turned this into one of the most memorable episodes yet. Knighton sits proudly on the Offas Dyke path. Not near it, not beside it, actually on it. A proper border town, half in Wales, half in England, and fully surrounded by some of the most beautiful walking country you'll find anywhere. And Knighton is also the starting point for the Glyndŵr Way, 2 major national trails crossing right through its heart. Walkers from all over the world pass through here, and once you see the scenery, the hills, the streams, and the views, you understand why. And then there are the attractions you'd never expect in a town this size. The Spaceguard Centre, watching the skies for asteroids. The Plaice Rally School, throwing cars sideways through Welsh gravel. 2 completely unique experiences, both sitting quietly in this small border town, as if that's the most normal thing in the world. Add to that the pubs we did manage to film, the ones we didn't, the shortcuts, the stories, the chip shop rescues, the mud rescues, the honesty box cake shed, the craft beer haven that became our HQ, and the people who helped us at every turn, and you've got an episode that didn't just take 3 visits, it took on a life of its own. Knighton didn't just give us footage. It gave us an adventure. It gave us laughs. It gave us kindness. It gave us friends. And it gave us a proper welcome. So join us as we dive into the pubs, the independent shops, the attractions, the scenery, the walks, and the unforgettable people who turned Knighton, the town that refused to be filmed in one go, into one of the most surprising highlights of our travels. Our day got off to a fantastic start. We rolled into Knighton at 10 a.m, and our first stop was Pampunton Campsite, home of Offas Treats. Now Offas Treats is run by Mark and Lenka, and let me tell you, the man has absolutely nailed the concept of food with a view. The sign says it, but the setting proves it. You've got the river flowing right beside you, you've got the train tracks running past like something out of a countryside postcard, and Knighton town is just half a mile down the lane. And behind you, towering above everything, is Pampunton Hill, the gateway to one of the very best sections of the entire Offas Dyke path still standing. So we kicked things off the right way. A bacon bap and a brew. Sat in the sunshine, watching the river drift by, and the trains rumble past, and the hill behind us, and Knighton waiting ahead. A simple start, but a perfect one. While we were at Offas Treats, we got talking to this lovely couple in front. They'd moved to Knighton from down south, and they absolutely loved the quieter way of life here. And all this beautiful scenery right on their doorstep. And while we were sat enjoying our bacon bap and brew, we got chatting to a brilliant bloke called Paul Millward. He was out getting his daily walking. He told us all about his route, gave us loads of local knowledge, and was just one of those genuinely great people you're glad you bumped into. And then I shook his hand, thanked him for the chat, and called him Mark. Mark, of course, was the owner of Offas Treats, and I'd got the names mixed up. But here's the best part. Paul absolutely knew I'd got his name wrong, but he was far too polite to correct me. He just smiled, nodded, and carried on being nice while I confidently used the wrong name like a complete muppet. It wasn't until he walked off and I sat back down with my bacon sandwich that my brain finally kicked in. That was Paul. Mark's the Offas Treats owner. Oh no. Luckily, Knighton is the kind of place where the universe gives you a second chance, whether you want one or not. As we were driving into town, there he was again, mid-stride on his walk. So I pulled over, apologised properly, explained the mix-up, and we ended up having another 10-minute chat and even grabbed a photo together. Then we drove into town, planned our next move, parked up, got out of the car, and there he was again. Third time in 45 minutes. At this point, it felt like Paul wasn't just on a walk, he was on a mission to make sure we felt welcome. We had another great 10-minute chat, more laughs, and honestly, I was half expecting him to pop up behind the bar in one of the pubs later on. Sadly, we didn't see him again that day, but he absolutely made our morning. So our next stop was the Knighton Museum. It's right in town, and due to be closed today. But in true Knighton fashion, that wasn't a problem for long. One of the brilliant volunteers, Laura, heard we were in town filming and opened the museum especially for us. That tells you everything you need to know about Knighton right there. Warm people, big hearts, and a community that genuinely wants to share its stories. The museum is completely free, though they're always grateful for donations. And honestly, this little time capsule deserves every penny it gets. Laura guided us around with real expertise and even gave us a demonstration on the old Harris loom. The cushion covers sitting on top of it were all made by Laura herself. Talented doesn't even cover it. And in the window sits Knighton's first fire appliance, dating all the way back to 1780. A proper piece of local history that looks like it's seen a few things in its time. One part of the museum has been turned into a mock old-fashioned shop, complete with original jars, tins and containers from the era. Pure nostalgia. You can almost hear the bell on the door and smell the old sweets. There's old newspapers, Beano comics, and unlike most museums, here you're actually encouraged to pick things up and have a proper look. It feels hands-on, personal and alive. There's a huge case full of blown eggs from different bird species. Everything from tiny quail eggs to huge ostrich eggs. And right beside it, a brilliantly cheeky sign. Beware, people who have stolen artefacts from Knighton Museum have ended up being stuffed and used. Complete with a photo of the 3 mannequins on display. Knighton humour at its finest. You'll also find meteorite fragments that have hit the earth. An old German war helmet brought back by a local soldier who, shall we say, acquired it during the war. And then, one of the most touching displays, the wedding dress of Mrs. Lillian Bright. Lillian met her husband, Eric, while they were both serving soldiers. They married in 1952, and the dress on display is the very one she wore, alongside a photo of her in it. Eric and Lillian were hugely respected locals and played a big part in the Knighton Golf Club. Several of their trophies are displayed here too, and by all accounts, Lillian was the better golfer of the two. Although I'm not sure if Eric would agree. Maybe he would. Their family donated the dress and trophies to the museum, and now their story lives on. A beautiful reminder of the people who shaped this town. Knighton Museum might be small, but it's packed with history, heart, humour and community spirit, and local stories. And thanks to Laura, we got to experience all of it. Right across the road from the museum, we popped into the Knighton Music Centre, and what a gem it turned out to be. Here, we met Sarah, who gave us a proper education in guitars. Not just the instruments themselves, but the woods they're made from, and how she sources from local makers. One of those makers, Rich Jones of JWJ Guitars from nearby Shrewsbury, has become their absolute bestseller. In fact, his guitars are so popular that one time Rich dropped off the delivery, and before he'd even left the shop, one had already sold. The guitar didn't even make it to the display stand. Straight from his hands to a customer. That's how fast they go. And while we were here, Steve picked up one of the guitars and treated us to a quick rendition of Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. A free concert in the middle of Knighton. Not bad for a casual stop-in. It's an absolutely fabulous shop. All kinds of guitars. They've even got a 12-string here. A guitar shop of this size is a great addition to any town centre, but especially for a town the size of Knighton. People travel from far and wide to buy guitars here. And while they do sell through mail order, honestly, it's worth the trip. Come in person, soak up the atmosphere, have a go at the guitars, meet the people and see the beautiful town of Knighton while you're at it. Because here, even buying a guitar feels like part of the community story. Next door to the music centre sits Prince and Pew, a lovely little shop that feels like it's been part of Knighton forever. It's one of those places with a proper traditional frontage, the kind that makes you slow down and take a look, even if you weren't planning to. Inside, it's packed with character and everyday essentials. It's the kind of shop that reminds you small towns still do things their own way. No fuss, no flash, just a proper local store serving its community with pride. It's the sort of place that fits perfectly into Knighton's story. Independent, welcoming and quietly holding the town together while the guitars next door are flying off the shelves. Our next stop was Restorella, a fantastic little shop that proves Knighton isn't just full of history, it's full of people who know how to bring history back to life. Owned and run with real passion by Ian and Trish, Restorella is one of those places where you walk in and instantly feel like everything has a story. Inside, outside, everywhere you look, there are pieces that have been rescued, revived, reimagined and given a second chance. Ian and Trish are expert upholsterers and fixer-uppers, proper craftsmen. They specialise in bespoke upholstery, taking tired old furniture and turning it into something you proudly put in your home. And alongside their custom work, they sell a brilliant range of vintage-style home and garden furnishings and accessories. It's the kind of shop where you go in for a browse and come out wanting to redecorate your entire house. Every piece feels personal. Every item feels chosen. And you can tell that everything in the shop has passed through the hands and the hearts of two people who genuinely love what they do. Restorella fits Knighton perfectly. Creative, independent, full of character and run by people who care deeply about their craft. And right next door is Roast Market Garden, Knighton's very own organic shop, a proper treasure tucked away on West Street. Roast Market Garden are growers and providers of organic products, supplying fresh chemical-free fruit and veg along with a range of wholesome, sustainable foods. Shelves full of honest, responsible grown produce, local goods and organic essentials that feel like they've come straight out of the soil rather than a warehouse. With produce like this, you can taste the difference and feel good about what you're buying. And Roast Market Garden isn't just a shop, it's part of a wider movement of local growers keeping traditional sustainable food production alive. After leaving Roast Market Garden, we headed down to the Offas Dyke Centre, the official home of the Offas Dyke Association and the first port of call for anyone wanting to learn about King Offa, the Dyke or the National Trail. The centre is packed with interpretive displays, maps, guides and a tea room with what's proudly described as the best view in town, overlooking the Shropshire Hills. Unfortunately for us, in classic Knighton fashion, it was closed when we arrived. But that didn't stop us exploring the area around it. Just nearby, you'll find a great section of the Offas Dyke Path, complete with information boards explaining the history of the dyke, the wildlife and the landscape. The centre sits roughly halfway along the National Trail, making Knighton a major hub for walkers. While we were here, we met Sarah Louise walking her dog. She was kind enough to point us in the right direction for one of Knighton's most iconic little spots, the tiny bridge where you can stand with one foot in Wales and one in England. A proper border straddling moment and a great photo opportunity. This whole area is beautiful, sitting right beside the River Team, and if the full Offas Dyke Path feels a bit much, a gentle river walk among the wildlife is a perfect alternative. Peaceful, scenic and full of that borderland charm. And speaking of long walks, Knighton isn't just home to the Offas Dyke Path, it's also the start of the Glyndŵr's Way route, a 135-mile national trail that begins in Knighton and winds its way all the way to Welshpool. And it takes you through some of the most stunning landscapes in mid-Wales. Even though the Offas Dyke Centre was closed, the area around it gives a real sense of Knighton's place in walking history, a crossroads of trails, stories and scenery. Our next stop took us to the Knighton rugby pitch, and this place has one of the best quirks in all of Welsh sport. The pitch literally sits on the border of England and Wales. And this also marked our first sighting of a bar. But guess what? The bar is only open on match days or special occasions. But this pitch was definitely worth a visit anyway. You can kick off in England and score a try in Wales, a cross-border try, the kind of thing you just can't make up. It's rugby with international travel included. Standing here, you can't help but smile. Only in Knighton would a rugby match double as a geography lesson. It's a brilliant little detail that sums this town up perfectly. Unique. Right next to the entrance to the rugby club is our first pub. But unfortunately the Kinsley is closed on a Wednesday and is only open Thursdays to Sundays. Back in town, our next stop was the Knighton Clock Tower. It stands proudly in the centre of Broad Street, like the town's own Gothic-style referee keeping an eye on everything. Built in 1872 and designed by the Haddon brothers of Hereford, it's a proper Victorian Gothic structure. Grey rubble stone, pale freestone dressings, a two-stage pyramidal roof and even arrow slits, because apparently in the 1870s you never knew when you might need to defend yourself from a surprise invasion. It was gifted to the town by Thomas Moore of Old Hall, and the plaque at the base still proudly records the clockmaker and the contractors who built it. A very fancy way of saying, here you go Knighton, have a clock, and don't forget who paid for it. But the real fun is in what used to stand here. Before the clock tower, this spot was home to the old town hall, a building so unloved the locals spent years wishing it would fall down, only for it to stubbornly remain standing like a grumpy relative who refuses to leave the party. It was eventually demolished in the mid-1800s, after decades of complaints about it being filthy, useless and surrounded by sheep pens and pig pens on market days. And it was here, on this very site, that Knighton's most eyebrow-raising tradition took place: wife selling. Yes, you heard correctly, wife selling. Knighton wasn't alone in this. It happened in several market towns across Britain. But the old town hall square was known as the place where such transactions occurred. It wasn't actually legally binding. More of a public declaration that the marriage had broken down and cheaper than getting a divorce. But still, imagine trying that today. Right, love, stand there by the sheep pen. I'll get the bidding going. Thankfully, those days are long gone, and the clock tower now stands where the old hall once presided over all sorts of questionable community events. Today, instead of livestock, shouting and dubious marital negotiations, you've got a handsome Victorian tower marking the heart of Knighton. A perfect meeting point, a great photo spot, and a reminder that this town has always had a flair for the memorable. And nearby is one of Knighton's most striking and historic buildings, the Old House. With its black and white timber frame frontage and unmistakable medieval character, it's believed to be possibly the oldest dwelling in Knighton. What makes it even more fascinating is that the 17th century facade you see here today is really the outer shell. Behind it sits the remains of a 14th century crook frame house, meaning this building has been standing here since long before the English Civil War, before the Tudor period, even before Columbus set sail. Proper deep-rooted Knighton history. And this is where our day split in two. Elaine headed off to the upholstery workshop and to check out the first actually open pubs, while I set off towards the Spaceguard Centre, blissfully unaware that my own adventure was about to go horribly wrong. But before we get to my mud-based misery, Elaine paid a visit to the brilliant Hammer and Tack upholstery workshop, run by Thomas Clough and Rachel Baker. Now these two don't just fix furniture, they resurrect it. Proper upholstery wizards. They run courses for everyone, from complete beginners who don't know a staple gun from a sandwich to experienced upholsterers looking to sharpen their skills. They've got 8-week courses, 1 day a week. They've got Saturday-only courses. They've got full Monday to Friday week-long courses. And if you really want to immerse yourself, they even offer accommodation at the Old Malt Store. So you can stay in Knighton while learning how to transform tired old chairs into works of art. A holiday and a new skill. Not bad at all. When Elaine arrived, the students were all hard at work and a bit camera shy. Heads down, tools in hands, pretending they couldn't see the lens. But Thomas was more than happy to pose for a photo, smiling like a man who's seen 1,000 chairs and given every single one of them a new lease of life. It's a cracking workshop, full of creativity, craftsmanship and that Knighton friendliness that seems to follow everywhere. While Elaine was happily touring Hammer and Tack and popping into the first pubs that were actually open, I headed off to something I'd been genuinely looking forward to, the Knighton Spaceguard Centre. A bit of astronomy, a bit of science, a bit of don't let an asteroid hit the Earth. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. I followed the sat-nav with full confidence, which, in hindsight, was my first mistake. It directed me down a lane that looked like it hadn't seen a car since the Romans left. It was overgrown, it was narrow, it was wet, and it was the sort of place where you'd expect to meet a wizard or a goat, not a visitor centre. I got so far, and then I saw it. A stream trickling across the lane. Not a river, not a flood, just a little stream. But enough to make me think, maybe not. I decided to reverse back up the lane. The car decided otherwise. Wheel spin, no traction. Brilliant. So then I thought, well, forward it is. I drove the car over the stream, managed to turn the car around, pointed it back up the hill I just came down, and gave it some gas. I got back over the stream, and I got a little bit up the hill, and then got stuck again. But properly stuck. Not going anywhere kind of stuck. After 15 minutes of being sat there thinking what to do, I rang Elaine. Elaine rang Tom, whose room we were staying in that night, and Tom sprang into action like a Knighton superhero and rallied the locals. And this is where Knighton shows its true colours, because within half an hour, Neil arrived in his van, armed with long tow ropes and the confidence of a man who's seen worse. I did say to him, "Are you sure about this?" I was concerned that he might get stuck as well. His van wasn't four-wheel drive. The last thing I wanted was for us both to be stuck. And Neil just grinned and said, "It's fine, I've done dafter things in my life." We hooked everything up, turned the engines on, give it some revs, a bit of tension on the rope, and then Neil got stuck as well. 2 vehicles, 1 tiny stream, and a sat-nav that should be arrested. So there I was, knee-deep in mud, scratched to bits by hedges, and questioning every life choice that had led me to this moment, while Elaine was sat in a pub with Tom, enjoying herself a little too much. I rang her again. "Are you out?" she asked, cheerfully. Nope. In fact, Neil is stuck too. That sobered the table up a little bit. One of the pub regulars, Rob, knew a few farmers with tractors who could haul us out. But of course, it was lambing season, which meant every farmer within 10 miles was working late and up to their elbows in sheep. It wasn't ideal. Meanwhile, fair play, Neil was ringing around his mates and getting plenty of offers, all of which involved the long wait, unfortunately. To be fair though, if you're going to be stuck, this wasn't the worst place to be stuck. Look at these views. It was absolutely stunning. Rolling hills, peaceful countryside, kind of scenery that almost makes you forget your car is buried up to its axles. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Neil managed to get hold of a nearby farmer, Rhys, who turned out to be the hero of the hour. He arrived in his 4x4 pickup like a man who'd rescued more vehicles than he'd had hot dinners. And one of the first things he said was, "It's been a while since I've had to pull anyone out of here." Apparently it was once a weekly occurrence, but now not so much. Anyway, Neil, who was further up the hill than I was, got pulled out of the shit with absolute ease. Then Rhys came back for me. Now mine wasn't quite so straightforward. It was lower down the hill, it was wetter down there, and there was a bit more wheel spin, a bit more mud, a bit more, "Oh shit, this might not work." But Rhys got the job done. Slowly, steadily, and with the calm confidence of someone who's seen far worse, stuck in far stranger places. And just like that, freedom. Knighton won, us back in the game. While I was still buried axle deep in mud, Elaine was having a far more civilised afternoon, ticking off Knighton pubs like a woman on a mission. First up was the beautifully built Horse and Jockey, and this place is absolutely steeped in history. According to multiple sources, the Horse and Jockey is a 14th century coaching inn, one of the oldest surviving buildings in Knighton, complete with original beams, open fires, and that unmistakable medieval character that hits you the moment you walk in. It's Grade 2 listed, with Cadw noting its late medieval origins, courtyard layout, and surviving C15 roof truss. The pub has been altered over the centuries, but the bones of the old coaching inn are still there. Stables converted into a restaurant, a snug bar, and a layout that still hints at the days when horses were tied up outside and travellers warmed themselves by the fire. Today, it's very much the heart of Knighton's life. Open 11 a.m. till 11 p.m. every day, it's pet-friendly, child-friendly, and shows all the live sports. Perfect for locals, walkers, and anyone who's just escaped a muddy lane disaster. Elaine reported back that the menu is spot on. Sandwiches, pizzas, loads of starters, fish and chips, steaks, burgers, and one of their standouts, the chicken and bacon enchilada. They also do a vegan version, a proper crowd pleaser of a menu. Behind the bar, they serve Henry Weston cider, Flagon cider, Madry, Carlin, Frava, Worthingtons, Stowford Press, Guinness, Carling Dark Fruits, and the real ales including Wye Valley's Butty Bark and HPA, and a guest ale rotating through the summer. It's a great pub where you can walk in for a pint and end up staying for a meal, a chat and possibly a room, because they also run a B&B upstairs with 8 ensuite rooms. They've also got a pool table and a darts board, because no self-respecting Knighton pub would be without at least one way to settle an argument involving skill, pride and possibly a pint. It's a proper Knighton institution. Ancient bones, modern comfort, great food, great beer and a warm welcome. Everything a pub should be. Elaine's next stop was the Banc. The Banc is open every day from 10:30am till 11pm and very much one of Knighton's modern, welcoming pubs. Pets and children are welcome and they show all the sports available on terrestrial channels. The kind of place where you can wander in at any time and instantly feel at home. Behind the bar they've got a cracking lineup: Stella, Alpaca Lips, Stowford Press, Carlin, Guinness, Peroni, Asahi, Recorderlig, Sharp's Cold River Cider, plus Ludlow Gold as a permanent real ale and a rotation of guest ales to keep things fresh. Food is a big part of the Banc too. They do breakfast Monday to Friday 10:30 till 12, lunches Monday to Friday from 12 till 2:30, dinners Monday to Friday 6 till 8:30, Saturdays all day food from 10:30 till 8:30 and Sunday roasts from 12 till 2:30, and they have grill nights Monday and Tuesday. It's proper hearty pub food. The decor is modern and clean with some brilliant features, especially the old Banc vault, now home to displays of money and bullion bars. But the real showstopper is the large Knighton artwork on the wall. This piece is a 3D sculptural relief, raised, textured and full of depth. It's not flat like a painting, but not fully sculptured either. It sits beautifully in between. It features Knighton's clock tower, the town crier, rugby players, shepherds and other local figures. There's buildings, hills and trees forming the backdrop. And at the bottom the inscription, Trev y Clawdd, Welsh for town on the Dyke, a perfect nod to Knighton's identity on the Offas Dyke border. It's a celebration of the town's creativity, history and community spirit, a visual love letter to Knighton. The Banc also hosts a disco on the last Saturday of every month, a charity quiz on the first Thursday and proudly displays a huge blackboard listing every donation they've raised. When Elaine visited, the running total stood at an incredible £36,968.42, a staggering achievement for a small town pub. And that brings us nicely to the man at the heart of it all, Craig Small. Before we even arrived in Knighton, I received a message from someone who wanted to stay anonymous, a message full of praise for Craig and everything he quietly does for the community. And every single person I spoke to confirmed it. Craig is the kind of landlord every town wishes it had. If someone needs a meal and can't get out, Craig delivers it. If someone needs a prescription picked up, Craig sorts it. If someone needs a lift to the hospital appointment, Craig steps in. If someone's struggling, Craig notices and helps without fuss, without fanfare and without ever asking for thanks. He doesn't do it for recognition. He doesn't do it for praise. He does it because he genuinely cares about the people of Knighton. And that's why the anonymous message I received mattered, because it came from someone who'd seen Craig's kindness firsthand. And when I mentioned it to other people, they didn't just agree, they lit up. Everyone had a story. Everyone had an example, and everyone knew exactly who Craig was and what he meant to the town. The Banc isn't just a pub, it's a community hub. It's a safe place, a warm place, a place where kindness is the default setting, because Craig sets the tone. Now Knighton is full of good people, but Craig is one of those rare individuals who quietly holds a community together, and he deserves every bit of gratitude. And everywhere we went in Knighton, we met people who were warm, generous, funny and genuinely proud of where they live. From the shop owners to the pub regulars, to the upholsterers, to the farmers, to Neil and Reese, who dropped everything to pull a stranger out of the mud, Knighton is full of people who look out for each other and make visitors feel like old friends. This really is a special town. It's the kind of town where you don't just see community, you feel it. In the conversations, in the help offered without hesitation, in the smiles, the stories and the small acts of kindness that happen quietly every day. Knighton is special because of its people. People like Craig, people like the ones who helped me out of that muddy lane, and people like everyone Elaine met on her pub hopping mission. It's a town that stays with you, not because of the buildings or the scenery, as lovely as they are, but because of the hearts behind them. Right next door to the Banc sits the George and Dragon, or at least the potential George and Dragon. It's been closed for a while now, but you wouldn't know it from looking at the place. The exterior is tidy, fresh, and looks for all the world like someone could walk up, turn a key, flick a couple of switches and be pulling pints within the hour. It's a pub that looks like it's taken a nap rather than being shut down for good. A proper turnkey opportunity if ever there was one. Elaine's next stop was the Plough, but unfortunately this one came with a slight hitch. The guy behind the bar wasn't sure whether filming was allowed and needed to check with the landlady, who wasn't in at the time. Rather than disturb anyone or hang around waiting, Elaine did the polite thing, grabbed a photo outside and carried on to the next stop. But the Plough still adds to the story. Another piece of Knighton's pub landscape, another doorway past, another place to return on a future visit when the stars and landladies align. And from the Plough, Elaine headed just down the road to the Knighton Raffer Club, only to discover yet another twist on the great Knighton pub quest. More bad news. It's only open Thursday to Sunday. To be fair, at this point it was starting to feel like Knighton was playing a gentle game of hide and seek with us. Half the pubs open, half the pubs closed, all of them looking great from the outside. Another one for the We'll Be Back list. By the time I finally made it back into Knighton, mud-free, car rescued, dignity mostly intact, although a bit damaged, I headed to catch the few last shops and cafes. Luckily for me, Elaine had taken photos of most of the places anyway, so I didn't have a great deal left to do and I could join her for a pint. First up was Mad Hatter's Cafe. Locals spoke incredibly highly of it, especially the hot food. Their Sunday roasts are apparently the stuff of Knighton legend, and the chicken and gravy bread rolls come up again and again as a must-try. They're also known for serving a good variety of filled bread rolls and homemade Scotch eggs, all with locally sourced ingredients. The kind of detail that tells you exactly what sort of place this is. The sausage meat for the eggs comes from AJ Pugh Butchers just across the road, and the eggs come from up the road in Clun. The Mad Hatter's Cafe is proudly local. Local suppliers, local food, and food made the way people actually want to eat it. And just across the road from Mad Hatter's sits JD's Cafe, another place that came highly recommended, this time for their brilliant value tasty breakfasts. The kind of breakfast that locals talk about with pride and visitors remember long after they've left. JD's sounds like a proper place for a proper fry-up, hearty plates and the sort of breakfast that sets you up for a full day of exploring, walking the Offas Dyke, or in my case, getting stuck in a muddy lane on the way to the Spaceguard Centre. And just a couple of doors down is AJ Pugh's Traditional Butchers, one of Knighton's long-standing food heroes. They've got one shop here in Knighton and another over in Bishop's Castle, and both have that classic old-school butcher feel. This isn't just a counter full of cuts of meat, it's more like a deli-style butcher, offering ready-to-cook meal prep packs, homemade sausages and specialty meats, a great selection of cheeses, fresh local produce, and plenty more for anyone who loves proper quality food. And of course, AJ Pugh is the butcher behind the sausage meat used at the Mad Hatter's Cafe for their famous Scotch eggs. When a cafe and a butcher work hand in hand like that, you know you're in a town that values local food and local people. And next door but one sits Knighton Flower Box, a proper family-run traditional florist with a long-standing reputation in the town. It's one of those shops that feels woven into the community, the place people go for birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, and those just because moments that matter. Next on our list was the headmaster, Knighton's Traditional Barbers, the kind of place where you know you'll get a proper haircut, a good chat and a sense of local routine. Not much needs saying about the barber in itself, but the window display, now that deserves a moment. Because the headmaster doesn't just have a window, it has a toy museum in a window. Honestly, it's incredible. A full private collection of vintage toys, all displayed with pride and all in astonishing condition. Many still with their original boxes intact. We're talking Tonka trucks, Airfix models, tanks and military kits, Hot Wheels cars, rockets, buses, classic cars, and all kinds of retro treasures. Adults get hit with a wave of nostalgia, kids press their faces to the glass, and everyone walks away smiling. It's playful, unexpected, and absolutely brilliant. Next stop was the Tower House Gallery, one of Knighton's loveliest independent spots and a real celebration of local creativity. Housed in a beautiful old building right in the heart of town, it's the kind of gallery that feels personal, welcoming and full of character. More like stepping into someone's curated treasure trove than a formal art space. The Tower House Gallery is known for showcasing local artists, makers and craftspeople, with a mix of paintings, prints, ceramics, textiles, jewellery and all sorts of handmade pieces. There's a real emphasis on Welsh and border area talent, giving visitors a chance to take home something unique, not mass-produced, not generic, but something made with care by someone who lives just up the road. And the next stop was W.E. Plaice, a long-standing Knighton favourite and one of those brilliant old-school shops that seems to have everything under one roof. It's a proper treasure trove, the kind of place where you walk in for one thing and come out with 3 others you didn't know you needed. They specialise in ladies' fashion, fascinators for weddings, races and big occasions, fabrics and haberdashery, knitting supplies, bedding and home textiles, baby clothes, and all the little bits and pieces that only a traditional shop ever seems to stock. And they don't just sell clothes, they host their own little fashion shows, which is exactly the kind of community-spirited, quietly fabulous thing that makes Knighton so special. And just across the road from W.E. Plaice sits Serenity, Knighton's own wellness hub, a calm, welcoming space that blends yoga, Muay Thai and community well-being under one roof. It's not just a fitness studio, it's a place built around connection, support and feeling good in both body and mind. Serenity offers Muay Thai classes suitable for all age groups, with families especially welcome. And they run a wide range of yoga classes, including yin yoga, slow, calming and perfect for stress relief, chair yoga, accessible movement for anyone needing extra support, yoga just for beginners, and they have flow and balance focus sessions. Their philosophy is that yoga is for everybody, not just the flexible or athletic. One of the loveliest touches is that they encourage people just to pop in for a cup of tea and a chat. No pressure, no expectations, just a welcoming space where you can breathe, reset and feel part of something. And the next stop was Sandra's Sewing and Alterations shop, a proper traditional sewing shop and one of the most essential high street heroes every town needs. It's the place people rely on for the jobs that only a skilled pair of hands can do, from quick fixes to full alterations and everything in between. It's a classic, long-standing independent shop, the kind that quietly keeps the community running. Lost a button? Sandra sorts it. Zip broken? Sorted. Trousers too long? That's done. Wedding outfit needs adjusting? Sorted. It's the kind of place where people walk in with a problem and walk out relieved. And next up was Knighton's Place, the town's much-loved fish and chip shop, and one that came highly recommended by just about everybody we spoke to. It's exactly what you want from a proper chippy. Generous portions, great value, and food that hits the spot when you're grabbing lunch, fueling up for a walk, or recovering from a long day of pub hopping. And the best part, you can take your food straight into Watson's pub next door and enjoy it with a pint. A perfect Knighton combo. Hot crispy fish and chips paired with a cold beer in a friendly local pub. It's the kind of arrangement only small towns seem to get right. And Knighton's Place came in very handy for us later on. Another reminder that Knighton doesn't just look after its visitors, it feeds them well too. And just across the road sits Border Bites, a fantastic little sandwich shop that punches well above its weight. It's one of those places locals rave about. Simple, friendly, great value, and absolutely spot on when you need something tasty on the go. They offer a wide range of hot and cold sandwiches, all freshly made and properly filled. And that deal everyone talks about, the sausage and bacon bap with a free tea or coffee for just £3.75. In a world where prices keep creeping up, that's an absolute steal, and exactly the kind of honest value small towns do best. They're also known for their amazing grazing platters, perfect for parties, family gatherings, celebrations, work events, any occasion where you want food that looks great and tastes even better. And across from Border Bites sits Trilogy, Knighton's well-loved hair and beauty salon, and a place with a particularly strong reputation for nails. Whether it's gels, acrylics, intricate designs or a simple tidy-up, Trilogy is known locally for doing a brilliant job and sending people out of the door feeling polished and confident. And just like the headmaster, Trilogy has a standout window display, but with a twist. Where the headmaster's window is a nostalgic toy museum you can only admire, Trilogy's window is full of beautiful items you can actually buy. The Trilogy window when we were here showcased art and home decor. It's a window that doubles as a little burst of inspiration for anyone passing by. And right at the top of the road, you'll find Bamboo Garden, Knighton's long-standing Chinese takeaway, and a firm favourite with locals. Bamboo Garden offers all the classics you'd expect from a proper Chinese takeaway. Generous portions, great value, dishes cooked fresh to order. Whether you're here for sweet and sour, chow mein, crispy beef, or a big portion of chips to keep you going, it's the kind of place that never lets you down. Another pub, the Golden Lion, sits right opposite the Bamboo Garden. But you guessed it, they're closed, only open at weekends. So that's another one to come back to. And now can I just ask, if you're enjoying this crawl so far, please hit the subscribe button. It helps our channel massively. It helps us grow and it helps people find us. And if you've got any ideas of where you'd like to see us travel to next, drop us a comment and we'll see what we can do. And that's it for the shops for today. And we've got one last business saved for tomorrow morning. It was finally time to meet Elaine at Watson's Firkin Lounge, formerly Watson's Ale House, Knighton's craft beer haven and one of the town's most vibrant gathering spots. This place is expertly run by Carter, who would soon become a massive help to us both. The Firkin Lounge is the kind of pub that feels alive the moment you step inside. Locals, visitors, walkers, regulars, everyone seems to end up here, and everyone seems to be enjoying themselves. The bar specialises in craft beers and ciders, with a line-up that changes so often it's practically a new pub every week. Some brews become instant favourites and make repeat appearances. Others, well, they get politely added to the not again list. That's the joy of a place that keeps experimenting. Alongside the rotating ales, they serve Wye Valley's Nightjar Stout, Zephyr Lager, Budvar Lager, a great range of bottled beers and a strong gin and rum selection. When we visited, they had a couple of still ciders on, at 6.5% and 7%, and Elaine was definitely feeling the burn after a few of those. As for me, I can't remember what I was drinking, which is always a good sign of a good night. Whatever it was clearly doing the job. Watson's Firkin Lounge isn't just about the drinks. It's a proper community hub, offering red tooth poker nights every Tuesday. There's a pool table and plans for pool and darts teams. There's live music once a month from small bands and local musicians. All sports on terrestrial channels are shown on the TVs, and there's a brilliant retro games machine for a bit of nostalgia and friendly competition. Pets are welcome, children are welcome. It's a pub that genuinely wants people to feel at home. One of the most touching features is the wall of beer mats from all the ales they've hosted, surrounding a beautiful photo of John Watson, who founded the bar when the building was still a butcher's shop. John sadly passed away in 2023, but his legacy lives on in the atmosphere, the community and the care that Carter puts into running the place. And out the back is a fantastic beer garden, with stunning views of the surrounding hills. The garden has got water features and bedded plants starting to bloom for the summer. It was under construction when we visited, but Carter came to the rescue and sent us a video of the finished space. Another example of the kindness and helpfulness we kept encountering in Knighton. and we stayed here so long that we forgot to eat. More drinking, no eating. And with that, my sugar levels dropped to dangerous levels. Elaine tried the chip shop next door, but it was closed. Luckily for us, our landlord for the night, Tom Crail, had other ideas. His place is right next to the chippy, and he knows them well. He tapped on the window with his walking stick and came back with a massive portion of chips, a large sausage and a fish cake. And in true Knighton fashion, no charge. It was another perfect example of warmth, generosity and community spirit that runs through this town. And with my blood glucose levels now normal, we finished our beers, said our goodnights and ended our evening with full hearts and full stomachs. We stayed next door for the night in Tom's place, somewhere we first discovered 4 weeks earlier when we were looking for a spot between filming in Bridgnorth and Newtown. We found it on a hotel search website, booked it on a whim, and it turned out to be absolutely ideal. Tom provides everything you need, all the essentials, all the comforts, and he's got that rare ability to be both brilliant company and completely invisible, depending on what you want. If you fancy a chat, he's there with stories, local knowledge and a wicked sense of humour. If you want peace and quiet, he melts away like he was never there. And if you ever find yourself stuck in the mud on a remote Knighton lane, well, Tom is on call for that too. The place itself is super comfortable, spotless and right in the heart of town, making it perfect for walkers, visitors and anyone exploring the area. Most of his regular guests are people walking one of the many routes that pass through Knighton, and Tom can give you much information on pretty much anything. Paths, pubs, history, shortcuts, you name it. He's not just a host, he's a town councillor, a fountain of local knowledge and genuinely one of the good guys. The kind of person who makes a town feel like home. We're going to put his number in the video description and you can contact him directly if you'd like to book a stay. You won't regret it. After a great night's sleep, we headed downstairs to help ourselves to breakfast in Tom's place. And that's another brilliant thing about staying here. There's croissants, bread, fruit juices, cereals, tea, coffee, absolutely everything you could want, all laid out for you to grab at your own pace. No fuss, no set times, no pressure, just a proper relaxed start to the day. And then halfway through our breakfast, while we were planning our filming schedule for Welsh Pool later that day, there was a knock at the door. It was Carter from Watson's Firkin Lounge, turning up with a pub info sheet we'd left with him to fill in. That alone would have been helpful enough, but Carter being Carter didn't stop there. Next thing we know, he's offering us a little tour drive around Knighton, and honestly, it was ideal for two reasons. One, we got to see places we might never have known about, the kind of local shortcuts, hidden corners and bits of town only someone who lives here would think to show you. And two, it gave me a chance to sober up a little bit more before I had to drive, which, given the previous night's mystery beer and Elaine's 7% cider, was probably a wise move. And it was another perfect example of kindness and community spirit that keeps popping up everywhere we went. In Knighton, people don't just help, they look after you. Carter's tour first took us to Old Mill Road, a gorgeous scenic stretch where the Wilcombe Brook winds alongside the lane. It's beautiful here, peaceful, green, and one of those places that instantly makes you understand why people love living here. And look at this beautiful house, the Old Mill House. And tucked just down the road from the Old Mill House was the spot that had been recommended to me over and over again, Charls Sweet Treats. The cake shed wasn't open when we arrived, it only opens Saturdays and Sundays, but Charlotte had kindly sent me photos and information to use, and her story is every bit as lovely as the cakes she makes. Charlotte Locke began baking as a teenager, turning it into a small home baking business at just 19 years old. After losing her father, she lost her spark for a while, but baking became kind of a therapy. Something grounding, creative and healing. In April 2025, she opened the cake shed, and the response from Knighton was overwhelming. Charls Sweet Treats is a beautifully decorated wooden shed operating entirely on an honesty box system. All treats are clearly labelled with prices, ingredients and allergen information. There's a calculator inside the shed so you can total up your order, and you can pay by cash in the lockbox or by bank transfer using the details on the door. The shed is located at Mill Barn, Mill Road, Knighton, LD7 1RT. So if you're in Knighton on a Saturday or a Sunday, pop by and grab something nice. It's a great idea that Charlotte has, and it's a community where honesty still works. Charlotte's current favourites among customers include the lemon drizzle cake, that's everybody's favourite surely, retro school cake, stuffed brownies. Every weekend she changes things up, offering different bakes so there's always something new to try. Alongside the weekend shed bakes, Charlotte also makes larger celebration cakes, which people can order through her Facebook page. Her passion shines through everything she does. This little business is her pride and joy. Charlotte told me that opening the shed made her realise just how many kind, supportive people live in the town where she was born and raised. And in true Knighton fashion, she even offered to make us a free cake. But with us being nearly 3 hours away, she promised to save us one for next time we're in town. Carter's tour continued up to Knighton Golf Club, but took in a lot of scenic spots along the way. This is a golf club that blends stunning scenery with over a century of golfing history. Even if you're not playing your best, this course keeps you hooked. Every hole feels different, every view is worth stopping for, and the landscape itself shapes the game. The terrain means no two shots feel the same. Uphill, downhill, across slopes, blind approaches, it's a proper test, but a fun one. The club was originally established in 1906, but in 1913 the club moved to its current location, and this is where the story gets special. The new course was designed by Harry Vardon, the legendary golfer who won the Open Championship 6 times, more than any other player. The official opening took place on the 30th of April 1913, with Harry Vardon himself playing in the opening match. And to round off our sporting tour, rugby pitch, golf club and now football, Carter took us to Knighton Town Football Club, one of the oldest and proudest clubs in Wales. Founded in 1887, though teams from Knighton were playing as early as 1882. The club has been part of the town's identity for well over a century. Recently, the club has been rebuilding strongly, with promotions and ambitious plans to climb back up the Welsh leagues. Their 2025 promotion to the Ardal North East League came after a dominant season, with 27 wins, 155 goals scored and just 1 defeat. And Carter wasn't finished with us yet. After the football club, he carried on showing us a few more of Knighton's hidden corners, the kind of shortcuts, quiet lanes and pretty streams you'd never find unless a local pointed them out. And this morning, with Carter, made us realise just how much beauty sits quietly around this town, tucked between hills, hedgerows and winding little roads. We passed by the Knighton Community Centre, a big part of local life. It even has its own bar, though it only opens for functions, events and special occasions. It's one of those places that becomes whatever the town needs it to be. A venue, a gathering point, celebration space, a meeting hall, another example of Knighton's community spirit in action. And next we stopped by St Edward's Church, a beautiful building with a wonderfully painted altar. Someone told us a story, and whether it's true or not, it's a lovely one, about a wounded veteran who used the church as a place to heal and painted the altar during his recovery. It's the kind of tale that fits Knighton perfectly, a mix of history, humanity and a touch of mystery. Before heading off, we made a quick visit to the War Memorial on Brookside Square. It's a peaceful spot, simple and respectful, and it felt right to pause there for a moment before our journey continued. Carter dropped us back at our car, and he'd already gone well above and beyond for us. What started as a quick handover of a pub info sheet turned into a full, unexpected Knighton tour, and it was genuinely appreciated. And he didn't stop there. He even said he'd try to get us footage of the pubs that were closed, just so the video would feel complete. That's Knighton for you, and that's Carter for you. 12 days later, we were back in Knighton again, this time for our second visit to the Spaceguard Centre, determined to finally get the footage I'd missed on the first time thanks to the mud rescue saga. For our second visit, we took Elaine's grandson Evan with us. He was off school and ready for something completely different. The Spaceguard Centre delivered exactly what we hoped for, a fascinating, funny and surprisingly accessible deep dive into the world of asteroids, comets and planetary defence. Our tour guide was Dee Rooney, who managed the perfect balance of humour and expertise. Even though we'd never been to an observatory before and felt totally out of our depth, Dee explained everything in a way that made it click. And by the end, I felt like I knew the lot, or at least enough to sound clever in the car on the way home. The Spaceguard Centre is the UK's Near-Earth Objects Information Centre, a working observatory dedicated to tracking asteroids and comets that could pose a threat to Earth. It houses some of the largest telescopes in Wales, a planetarium and a camera obscura. And tours currently cost £10 per adult and children under 16 go free. And that has to be one of the best value science attractions in the whole region. Sir Patrick Moore opened the centre in 1995 and returned in 2001 to open an additional section, a big moment for the observatory. Stephen Hawking visited in 2017, a true testament to the centre's scientific importance. One of the most interesting exhibits is the global map showing where space debris has landed. Some fragments are tiny, others mark enormous events, including one linked to the end of the Jurassic period, a reminder of how dramatically these impacts can shape life on Earth. This place is educational without being overwhelming. It's scientific without being dry, and unique enough that even kids find it exciting. It's not every day you get to stand in a working observatory and learn how humanity keeps an eye on the sky. It's a great day out, different, memorable, and genuinely fascinating. And the Spaceguard Centre isn't the only unique attraction that Knighton has. There's also the Phil Plaice Rally School, a world-class rally experience here in Knighton. For a small rural town like Knighton to have something as full-on and professional as the Phil Plaice Rally School is genuinely unbelievable. It's one of those "how is this here" attractions that makes Knighton feel so special. The rally school uses real Welsh rally stages, not artificial tracks, meaning you're driving on the same rugged terrain used in genuine rally events. Their fleet includes rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive Subarus, fully prepared and ready to be thrown sideways through gravel corners. Courses are taught by BAR's licensed instructors, ensuring proper rally technique. Slides and drifts, Scandinavian flicks, opposite lock control, braking lines and corner approaches. The most popular option is the 7-hour full rally experience, which includes multiple driving sessions, one-on-one tuition, timed competition laps, in-car recordings and a high-speed passenger ride at competition pace, often described as the ride of a lifetime. It's intense, loud, dusty and unforgettable, exactly what a rally day should be. The school has been voted #1 rally school in the UK multiple times, and it even earned praise from Richard Hammond, who filmed here teaching his daughter to rally. For a small border town to host a rally school of this calibre is extraordinary. It brings motorsport fans from across the UK, offers something completely different from the usual tourist attractions, and adds another layer to Knighton's Unexpected Gems theme, right up there with the Spaceguard Centre. The following Friday, we were back in Knighton again, determined to catch the pubs we'd missed the first time, the ones where we couldn't get hold of the landlady or the doors were shut. It felt like unfinished business, but Knighton had other plans. First stop, the Kinsley. Good news, it was open this time. Bad news, with our luck, the landlord was in Hereford. So once again, we couldn't get a yes or no about filming. Great start to the day. Next up, we headed to the Plough, and unbelievably, it was the same guy behind the bar as last time, and the same story. Landlady was out, and he'd forgotten to mention anything to her. At this point, it was starting to feel like Knighton was genuinely trolling us. Then, onto the Rafa Club. Closed, and not due to open until 7 p.m. And by then, we needed to be back in North Wales. Another one slipped through the net. And the last stop, the Golden Lion. Closed again. We know it is open, just not when we're there apparently. By now, the day was starting to feel like a pub-themed treasure hunt where the treasure kept moving. To top it off, we missed the 2:30 food deadline at both the Banc and the Horse and Jockey, so even lunch was against us. But once again, Carter came to the rescue. He sent us a video of the Plough, giving us the footage we couldn't get ourselves, and it really does look like a cracking pub. Inside, they've got Carlin, Worthingtons, Guinness, Star of Pramen, Thatcher's Gold and Cold River Cider, and on draft they've got Old Speckled Hen and Wainwright's Gold. There's a pool table and 2 darts boards, and a full shelf of trophies, so they're clearly not just making up the numbers. And the walls have those brilliant bulldogs playing pool pictures that always raise a smile, and there's even a jukebox for a proper old school pub vibe. They've also got a function room and an outside space, and the old rock walls give the place loads of character. So yes, our Friday was a bit of a washout in terms of filming, but thanks to Carter, we still got what we needed. And honestly, the whole thing just added another chapter to the Knighton saga, a town that keeps us guessing, keeps us laughing, and keeps surprising us with how helpful its people are. And one last bit of history before we leave Knighton. Just a couple of miles away in Plaice is St Mary's Church. Standing on the slopes of Brynglas, overlooking the valley of the River Lug, a peaceful spot that once witnessed one of Wales' most famous battles. On the 22nd of June 1402, the hillside behind the church became the scene of the Battle of Plaice, part of Owen Glyndŵr's rebellion against English rule. Glyndŵr's Welsh forces defeated a larger English army led by Sir Edmund Mortimer, capturing him and killing hundreds. The victory prolonged the Welsh War of Independence and shook English politics for years. After the battle, Glyndŵr's men burned the church, leaving scorch marks that are still visible on the tower's north wall. In the churchyard lies a mass grave of soldiers from both sides, now marked by a modern memorial. Inside, a small exhibit displays artefacts found on the battlefield. St Mary's remains a quiet, lime-washed sanctuary, a place where birdsong replaces battle cries. It's a poignant stop for walkers on the Offas Dyke path or on Owen Glyndŵr Way. It offers a moment to reflect on how this tranquil corner of Powys once shaped Welsh history. And that brings us to the end of our Knighton adventure, a visit that turned into far more than we expected, and one that showed us exactly what makes this little border town so special. We came here planning to film pubs, like we always do, but Knighton had other ideas. Instead, it opened its doors to us in a different way, through its independent shops, its local characters, its unexpected attractions, and the kind of kindness you simply can't script. From Knighton Plaice and Border Bites to Trilogy, Charls Sweet Treats, and all the other independents we met along the way, these small businesses more than made up for the pubs we couldn't get into. They're full of personality, passion, and people who genuinely care about what they do, and they're a huge part of what gives this town its charm. We explored the scenery, the streams, the shortcuts, the walks, and the views that seem to appear around every corner. We visited Knighton Golf Club, Knighton Town Football Club, and the rugby pitch, completing a sporting trilogy to a town that punches well above its weight. And then there are two completely unique attractions that you simply wouldn't expect to find in a place of this size. The Spaceguard Centre, watching the skies for asteroids, and the Plaice Rally School, throwing cars sideways through Welsh gravel. Two experiences you won't find anywhere else, and they were both right here in Knighton. But what truly made this trip unforgettable were the people. Carter, who went above and beyond, giving us a tour, sending us footage, and helping us out more than he ever needed to. And Tom, who gave us a place to stay, a breakfast to wake up to, and even a late-night chip shop rescue when I needed it the most. And Neil, who was the first on the scene to try and help me out of the mud, and Reese, who helped us both out of the mud, and absolutely everyone else who stopped to chat, pointed us in the right direction, or simply made us feel welcome. Knighton is full of people like that. People who look after you, who help without being asked, who make you feel like you've lived here for years, even when we've only been here for an hour. So yes, we missed a few pubs. Yes, we had a Friday that didn't quite go to plan. But honestly, Knighton gave us something better. It gave us stories, it gave us laughs, it gave us kindness, it gave us friends, and it gave us a proper welcome. And it also gave us a place that we can always return to. And that's why this town is absolutely worth a visit. Not just for the scenery, or the walks, or the food, or the pubs, or the attractions, but for the people who make it what it is. Thanks for joining us on this one, and to everyone in Knighton, diolch yn fawr. Thank you so much. We'll be back.